Welcome to DeFi Expectations. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Today we have on Oranges from Geode Finance. How are you doing today, Oranges?
Yeah, good. Thank you, mate. Good. Thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. Happy to have you on.
Doing good.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You work in operations for Geode Finance, a project facing the tall task of creating the liquid staking universe. Tell us a little about your role with Geode and what it means to build a liquid staking universe.
So my role is head of operations. And then on top of that, there's a bit of partnerships in there. So I guess I'm head of ops and head of partnerships for Geode. To be honest, it's a really exciting space because we are looking to completely turn ETH staking on its head. There's a lot of centralization in current staking, and there's a bit of a monopoly with a couple of key protocols, Lido and Rocket Pool. I know Rocket Pool isn't centralized as such, but a lot of staking is concentrated with a couple of protocols, and if anything goes wrong with any of those protocols, then we have a big issue on our hands. The ideal world within proof of stake and decentralization is you've got validators spread out across hundreds of thousands, millions of people, rather than a couple of DAOs or centralized entities.
Geode caters to retail stakers in addition to DAOs, but we'll focus on the value proposition for DAOs first. In the Geode ecosystem, they are referred to as planets. A planet is a protocol, wallet, exchange, or bridge that is a part of the Geode ecosystem. What value does joining the Geode ecosystem offer for DAOs?
So what DAOs get from Geode is they get a really unique proposition whereby they can have their own ETH2 staking solution. So currently, if you were a lending protocol, for example, you'd probably have to integrate with one of the key ETH2 staking vanilla service providers and use their ETH2 staking token as collateral for your users to use to borrow and lend. Whereas what Geode does is it allows that particular project to have its own ETH2 staking solution with its own ETH2 staking token. So one, you can charge, it can be a revenue source for that project because they can charge what they want for that service to their users. It increases TVL. It encourages users to, they can use their own ETH2 staking token as collateral for their own project. So it opens up new revenue sources for DAOs. It opens up new products and services, and it reduces third-party risk, which I think is a big one, because if you use other protocols staking token on your project for collateral in this example, then you're ultimately taking on that, your users are taking on the risk of that protocol. And if anything goes wrong with that protocol, then your users are, or you, if you're using it for your own treasury, for example, are taking over on that risk. Whereas Geode allows you to run these validators yourself, and that you own the withdrawal contracts, and therefore that third-party risk no longer exists.
Excellent. And for the value regarding retail stakers, why would I choose Geode over Lido?
Well, you wouldn't necessarily choose Geode. You could choose Geode because Geode would offer staking to users as well. But Geode basically allows other DAOs to have their own staking solutions. So what it really does is it opens up ETH2 staking to every protocol in DeFi who wishes to come into our ecosystem. So the benefit to the retail user is they no longer just have one or two choices on where they wish to stake their ETH through a staking service. They hopefully will have 10, 20, 30, 50 different options to choose from, depending how big Geode's ecosystem becomes. And I mean, Lido, for example, I think I'm right here. I'd need to check, charge 10% of the yield generated as their fee. Whereas protocols that join Geode can choose whatever the fee they wish. So some might not charge anything, some might charge 5%, some might match Lido at 10%. So the chances are retail stakers will also benefit from less fees, because ultimately a DAO that takes on Geode service could undercut Lido even by 1% and get quite a bit of TVL to their project.
So let's say there are like 30 different protocols going through Geode, 30 different planets. What would make a retail staker, I guess, choose one or the other option, especially because I imagine it's going to be up to the amount of interest that these protocollers are willing to pay to the stakers. So like, do you feel that there's going to be some kind of battle or war between them to offer the best incentives? Or will they have like other potential avenues for attracting people to stake through their particular protocol?
I think what we'll probably see in the long term is a reduction in the fees charged by these protocols for staking. There'll be a race to a bottom on fees, because as soon as one protocol undercuts the fee from the market average, say that's 10% at the moment, and they start charging 9 or 8%, next person will come in at 7 and 6. It'll be raced down to the bottom. We'll have very limited fees for the staking itself. But what I imagine we will get is we're going to get a huge amount of composability within these various ETH2 staking tokens. If each project will have its own staking solution with its own token, and therefore the value to users won't necessarily be in terms of APY, unless there's certain protocols that maybe use MEV and other methods to try and increase that APY. The value will be in what products and services can they get through that staking derivative. So say, for example, there's a big lending protocol that's with Geode and has its own ETH2 staking token. They only accept that ETH2 staking token for collateral on their project. So they'll accept ETH, but they'll also accept their ETH2 staking token as collateral. You'll get a lot of retail going towards that protocol to stake their ETH with them, receive their token to then use as collateral, and then at the moment ETH collateral is basically paying 0, whereas you could get 5% pretty much straight away from that. And then that goes for every product. So each DAO or protocol will have its own products and services that leverage the yield being generated through ETH staking, and people will go to the products they wish to use rather than for the APY from the staking. And APY for the staking, it'll just become a norm. ETH in a proof of stake chain will be expected to be generating yield at all times. What's the point having ETH that isn't generating yield in a proof of stake?
Yeah.
Let's discuss Wrapped ETH2, because I believe that's what offers the DeFi composability you're talking about here. But what's special about Wrapped ETH2 that it allows you to do these types of swaps, and what's possible because of Wrapped ETH2?
So Wrapped ETH2, for those who aren't too aware that there are so many token names nowadays, it is basically Ether staked in validators within Geode's ecosystem. And then it would normally be like name a protocol Wrapped Ether2. So we're talking about Lido. If they join, for example, it would be Lido Wrapped Ether2 or Aave Wrapped Ether2 or whatever the protocol is. Well, what's special about Wrapped Ether2 is it's actually an ERC1155 token rather than an ERC20. Basically, what that allows is, because ultimately it's the same asset, i.e. staked ETH, it might be different projects staking that ETH, but ultimately it's the same asset. By using ERC1155, we can swap between the different tokens seamlessly. So you could swap between project A's Wrapped ETH2 and project B Wrapped ETH2 in one transaction, really seamlessly. That lowers gas fees, it lowers the amount of transactions users have to do, it makes things super simple. So we think that's the best way to go, and I think it's gonna be a bit of a game changer.
Yeah, because basically Geode doesn't collect any fees. They provide this interface for other protocols to access ETH2 staking and charge their own fee, but Geode itself doesn't charge any fee. So the way in which Geode does collect fees is apparently through swap fees, swapping from one version of wrapped Ether to another, which is still beneficial to the user because if they were to unstake and then try to restake for a particular token going back out the way they came in, it would cost way more in gas fees than just a simple swap. So is that basically a good way to understand the value? And can you speak more to what the swap fees are on this protocol?
Yeah, sure. So the exact swap fees to be determined, but it's not going to be anything crazy. It'll probably be something similar to what you expect on Uniswap or Sushi. But yeah, we don't charge any fees for for our portal for the white label staking solution. It kind of defeats the point if we're trying to do what we're trying to do. But having revenue come through the pools, that's the way to kind of fund the protocol, really, and that's why we're charging a fee to fund the Geode ecosystem.
Excellent. And ETH2 staking is already dominated by projects like Lido, as I mentioned earlier, and that's why this is a new use case to kind of go toe to toe with that. But Geode is not just another ETH2 staking protocol. Instead, it's a different approach that's being used in order to avoid becoming another monopoly of the staking industry with $6 billion under control of a single multi-sig. Can you speak to that problem with Lido and how Geode solves it?
Yeah, sure. So Lido and any staking service really is that they're vanilla staking services where you stake your ETH and you receive their token, and that represents ETH locked in their validators, and they have control of those validators. And I know Lido has moved to using withdrawal contracts instead of multi-sig, which is much better. They still have a considerable amount under a multi-sig, but going forward, that's obviously going to be less and less as they grow. But still, that multi-sig is within the control of the Lido DAO. So if something happens to Lido or to any vanilla staking protocol, that ETH staked with them is at risk. So it's like I think there's a very low chance something's going to happen to Lido. Don't get me wrong, but ultimately it's quite a big risk for the staking ecosystem and for Ethereum as a whole to have such a big player with so much ETH staked, controlling so much ETH staked. What Geode does in comparison is we, as I kind of mentioned, we're a white label staking solution. So we're not, although we will probably offer staking services just because we'll offer our own product, we'll use our own service for our own benefits as well. But we are allowing every protocol to have their own service with their own token. So it spreads the risk of any point of failure from any particular DAO across hundreds of different projects, hopefully. So it basically makes ETH2 staking more decentralized, because not only do we offer our solution in a decentralized manner, but we are basically opening the door for protocols that wouldn't necessarily do ETH2 staking or have the ability or the bandwidth to manage ETH2 staking for their users to be able to do so. So we're basically opening the gateway for it.
Sorry about that. Why is staking a difficult endeavor for the average protocol or DAO or just wallet in general?
It's not necessarily that it's a difficult endeavor. It's just not always at the forefront of their mind. They've got other things to kind of concentrate on. It's not their core offering. Mm-hmm. So it'll take them a good amount of time to set up the infrastructure and set everything up, and then you got all the maintenance and maintenance of all the validators, setting up all the validators, the security around all of it. It's just a lot of stuff to do, if that makes sense. A lot of life is about convenience. There are a lot of products out there where convenient. You're like, why does this exist? But because it's convenient, people use it. Yeah. And Geode is providing a lot of convenience for these projects to have this service for free and very, very easily and quickly, because we've done all the legwork for them. Yeah. So that's probably the best answer I can kind of give on that one.
Yeah, that's fair. I always wonder why somebody would be willing to pay like $35 to get a McDonald's hamburger delivered, but I'm just way cheaper than the average person.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's so many things where convenience is the reason things are being paid for. I mean, Deliveroo is a good example, I guess, of that.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about the components to Geode, and we can switch over to the Testnet tab. So Geode has launched recently on Testnet. There are 4 components to the Geode ecosystem: representatives, the Senate, node operators, and liquidity pools, the liquidity pools of which are dubbed the Geodex. Please explain, Oranges, how these components work together to create a staking ecosystem.
The liquidity pools are, as you know, it's kind of name on the tin. They provide liquidity between the different wrapped Ether2 tokens. It allows users, retail users, to swap between the various tokens within our ecosystem. So if you're using, say, wrapped Ether2 collateral on a lending protocol, but then you want to use it for a different service from a new project, then you can just swap with our liquidity pool to that other token and then use it straight away. So it's a convenience kind of play. Representatives are the planets, or are the protocols within our ecosystem. So that's quite a simple one. And then the Senate is our governance. So what we do is we will have a token which will ultimately act as a governance token like normal, but the Senate will hold seats for some of the main projects within our ecosystem, so that their own governance can have a say and control in the future direction of Geode. So projects that join our ecosystem will actually have a say in the future of Geode Finance, and the Senate will ultimately have the final say in what passes governance and what does not. So it's quite an interesting one, because if we just take Lido as an example, because it's just the biggest vanilla staking protocol, and I guess the equivalent to what we're doing in a way. If you use SDETH in your project, if you want to have some kind of say on the direction and governance of Lido, you would need to buy a lot of their token in order to vote and have a say. Whereas with Geode, if you have a seat on the Senate, and a lot of our launch partners will do so, you don't need any Geode tokens to be able to have a say on the direction of the protocol, and your governance can directly impact the direction of Geode.
So the Senate is more like a democracy, more so than like a stock, basically.
Exactly.
In theory, the Senate is going to be a democratic organization versus one that's strictly controlled by monetary assets.
Yeah, exactly. There's no entry fee. There's no tokens needed to be a member of the Senate. It will be key partners and key projects within our ecosystem that will ultimately have a say as to the direction of the protocol. They basically approve or disapprove the governance votes that come through from the general governance of the DAO, and that you don't have to have tokens to be able to have a seat.
And what specific components to Geode are available now through the testnet?
With the testnet, so our portal and our liquidity pools. So the white label staking solution is available. So you can go on there and you can see. I mean, obviously the ones we've got here are just placeholders. We're not putting particular project names here yet. But these Mars, Earth, Polar Bears, these would all be different protocols. With all the information of what they charge and how much TVL is in their pool, etc. And then you can go and stake with them directly from Geode, and that would be the exact same thing as staking on their protocol as well. It's just you got another place to do it. And then Geodex is our liquidity pool. So this is where you could swap between the different tokens from the different planets. So if you wanted to swap from project A to project B, or Mars to Liquid in the as a testnet example, you would go here and you can swap between the different tokens. And this just shows the efficiency of the ERC1155 token standard in this used in this way.
Would you mind kind of walking us through? I have a little bit of testnet ETH that I grabbed. Would you mind walking the users through like how the average staker would actually come through and use this, or how somebody who wants to participate in the testnet would actually come in and play around?
Yeah, sure. So you come into our website, geode.fi. You click on app at the top right, and that takes you to the testnet, which is what's showing on the screen at the moment. If you go to portal, and then let's take Earth, maybe, because it's a cool graphic. You can see all the information. So the APY, that would be, well, it's currently 5%. You can see how much ETH is deposited, et cetera, et cetera. If you click select, then you've got a simple kind of user interface where it shows how much ETH. So you've got 0.024 ETH in your wallet. So if you put in, I say 0.015 maybe, so you've got enough left for gas. Then you can stake that and receive the wrapped ETH 2 version.
So this is swapping from ETH to wrapped ETH 2, which is the native token of Geode.
Yeah, so obviously this is testnet, but what you'd be doing here is whatever, Earth is a DAO, so you'd be staking 0.15 ETH with the Earth DAO to receive their ETH 2 staking token.
And it's not shown on the screen, but at that point, it would have a MetaMask transaction pop up for gas, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
Exactly. Just like everything else within decentralized finance or any DApp. Like you can see a few things going on here. They will then confirm and show that you've then got that wrapped Ether 2. And then from there, you can go on to our liquidity pool, our GeoDex, and you'll see that wrapped Ether 2 for the Earth DAO available in your wallet, which you can then use to swap between the different wrapped ETH 2 tokens.
So still got the transaction going right now. There we go.
Yeah, it takes a few seconds to a minute. It's pretty quick.
All right. So from here, I'm in the swap now. We deposited into Earth, right? So
yeah. So there you go. You got 0.08. So if you click on that.
And right here where it refers to Earth, will that in the future pass the testnet? Will that actually say maybe like wrapped ETH 2? Or
yeah, exactly. So it'll say the name of the token. So it'll be project wrapped Ether 2, depending which project's token it is. And then you'd be swapping it for whichever other project token you'd be looking to swap it to.
Gotcha.
And it's just like any swap transaction in DeFi. There's no difference really to it. And the testnet basically allows retail and DAOs to kind of see, just to get a visualization of what it's all about and what happens. But if you go into more in-depth look, it's an opportunity for projects to integrate with our contracts through the testnet and see what it looks like on a more technical level.
I have a question while Robin's playing around with this. Do you think any specific ETH events this year will help Geode's opportunity for success?
I mean, the merge will be a big one. Also, when withdrawals are allowed. I think when ETH withdrawals are allowed, that's probably, I think that'll be 12 months from now. That'll be a pretty big one because suddenly liquid staking becomes fully liquid staking, if that makes sense. Though ETH can be withdrawn from validators, so it's a lot easier for users to commit. At the moment, if you stake ETH, you've got another 12 months until you can get that back. And for hardcore kind of believers, that's absolutely fine. But for the average guy, is quite a commitment to lock your tokens away for 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
So when the merge is complete and when the withdrawals are allowed, I think that'll really change things quite a lot, I think, and it will really allow these projects to take advantage of this yield.
Now, I have another question related to the wrapped ETH2 token. So because we have all these derivatives of the wrapped ETH2 token, are you going to be able to see each one of those in a wallet like MetaMask or possibly on Zapper or something like that when the time comes?
You should be able to. I'm not a developer by any means. Because it's an ERC 1155 token standard, it's slightly different to an ERC 20. So I would need to check with to see what MetaMask supports. But it is a more widely used token standard from what I'm aware of. And if it doesn't have that functionality, it should do, or will do in the future.
Yeah.
Geode Finance is currently focused exclusively on the Ethereum network. However, could this staking solution be applied similarly to other chains?
Yeah, completely. So any chain that has proof of stake is a suitable chain for Geode Finance. It's all about staking a chain's native asset to secure the network and offering that functionality to projects that are on that chain. So any proof of stake chain, Avalanche, Solana, Matic, all of these, and any future ones as well could benefit from Geode. And Geode isn't going to be a single chain ecosystem. It's going to be a multi-chain product in a multi-chain world.
So you already have plans to expand to other chains.
Yeah, we do. Like there's something we're seriously looking at the moment to kind of see what other chains we can go into outside of Ethereum.
I have a question. When you're doing something like that, going outside of the chain, does the validator setup, I imagine, differ between each chain? So would you be bridging over from a different chain into what we currently have set up with the Geode validators currently? Or do you create all new validators based on what is required for their version of proof of stake?
Yeah, so each chain has its own nuances and its own way of doing things. If you take Avalanche, for example, they've got the C chain and the P chain. So they've got two different chains. Ethereum obviously has the one. Also, like, we won't be taking ETH staking to Avalanche in this example. It would be AVAX staking we would provide. So you'd be able to stake AVAX and use AVAX in other protocols in the same way we're doing with ETH2 staking.
Gotcha.
And AVAX has I think it's a minimum of 2 weeks you can lock for, versus Ethereum, where currently there isn't a date to withdraw the ETH. We think it'll be in 12 months, but there isn't actually a date yet. So they're very different environments. So we'd have to adapt for the particular environment of that chain and change our contracts and code to facilitate those chains. But the vast majority of our contracts would stay the same ultimately, because we're offering the same service, but we would definitely have to tweak them and modify them to fit the requirements of the different chains that we will ultimately go into.
Gotcha. So you wouldn't actually be bridging over assets.
I mean, there might be a world. I'm sure there'll be a world where you bridge over wrapped Ether 2, for example, to another chain to use it as collateral. Like if Ethereum is being bridged over to multiple chains, proof of stake or not, to be used within DeFi protocols. So why would a ETH2 staking derivative not be used to be bridged over? So I can see in the future bridging happening for our assets like cross-chain, but we'll be focusing on allowing staking for the native token on each chain that we go on. So on Ethereum, it would be Ethereum staking. On Avalanche, it would be AVAX staking. On Solana, it would be Solana staking, for example.
Gotcha.
I have one final question. So DAOs and retail stakers looking to engage with Geode can follow them on Twitter, join the Discord. There's a blog and an educational medium. All links we will include in the description for this video. Oranges, to conclude, what else is on the horizon for Geode? What can we expect on the roadmap?
Ooh, so obviously mainnet launch. That's a big one. I think the main things to look out for is kind of what we've just been talking about, which is multi-chain. So how quickly the Geode ecosystem will expand, which partners we get, and get on board onto our ecosystem, which chains we go onto, and what products are being created from projects like DAOs being able to utilize ETH staking and the yield to create new services.
Excellent.
So in terms of our roadmap, really it's going to be, I mean, we can't roadmap projects that join us, obviously, but it'll be going multi-chain. That'll be the key.
That sounds exciting. Robin, did you have any other questions?
Is there any kind of time frame where you think it would take to go multi-chain, or does that just depend on how things are going?
I think we should be multi-chain by the end of Q2, early Q3. Now, things can change. Development is never that clear cut and easy. But yeah, we will definitely be multi-chain by the end of the year, without a doubt.
Excellent. Well, something else for us to look forward to then from Geode.
Yeah, so everyone who wants to get involved and help Geode with this mission, head over to our website, geode.fi, check out our testnet, have a play around. We're super keen for feedback and any bugs and stuff. We want to get everything fixed so that when we do go live on mainnet, there are no issues whatsoever. And then, no one's perfect. If there's any suggestions on something that would be a good value add, then we're all ears. So we encourage as much testing as possible on the testnet, and come over to our Discord and let us know what you think. And if we've got a specific dedicated channel within our Discord for talking about the testnet and issues or bugs or suggestions that you guys have. And then for DAOs, it's an opportunity for you to take a look and actually see a visualization of what we're creating, and see how you could potentially integrate with us. And my DMs are open. You'll find me on the Discord or my Twitter, and get in touch, and we can see what we can do.
And actually, for a DAO that wants to reach out, what is the process to actually become an integrated part of Geode?
So the process is quite a simple one, really. It's firstly it's a chat to see how we could work together. We provide technical documentation. We then get our tech teams together to kind of go through a few things, and then we look to integrate. There's a couple of decisions that each DAO needs to make when integrating. So which node operators do they wish to use, for example, and that stuff we can guide them on and help them with. And I think what we'll be doing in the future is we will act as a node operator as well for projects. So they've got us to use as an option as well. And then it's just simply interacting with a couple of our contracts, a couple of transactions to set everything up, set up the withdrawal contract address, things like that, and then you're up and running. So it isn't a huge integration. It's quite a quick and easy one.
Great.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on, Oranges. Appreciate you telling us about Geode today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great. It's always nice to come on here. It's great to speak to you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
You too. Well, have a good weekend.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Thank you. Have a good night, and I'll speak to you later.
Talk to you soon.